Popular idol Doona shone brightly on stage, adored by everyone. But offstage, she lived in fear and pain every day. She was blamed for gaining even a little weight and was often harassed by creepy men. Her teammates bullied and insulted her. People spread rumors about her plagiarism. The constant torment left her breathless and depressed. She asked her manager for help, but he ignored her. To the company, she was just a tool to make money. At her final concert, exhausted, Doona jumped off the stage, ending her career. Afterward, she hid in her apartment, living a sad and empty life. One day, a college student, Wonjun, moved into her building. He greeted her kindly, but she ignored him. As he opened his door, she noticed he was wearing her fan merch and gave him a disgusted look. Wonjun didn't realize and awkwardly asked if they had met before. Doona still didn't answer. Wonjun felt awkward and quickly went inside. He wondered why Doona always looked so sad and sat alone. But Doona thought he was a stalker. The next day, she stopped him and asked if he was making fun of her. After a moment, he remembered she was a famous idol. Doona became convinced he was a fan stalking her. She blew smoke at him and nearly burned him with her cigarette. Wonjun tried to explain he wasn't her fan, but she didn't believe him. He promised not to look at her again and hurried away. Later, Wonjun went to a tutor job interview, which went well. On his way home, he met his high school crush, Jinju. Coincidentally, they attended the same university. While waiting for the bus, it started snowing. Wonjun gave his scarf to Jinju, and she said he was still as kind as before. A few days later, Jinju tried to return the scarf, but accidentally caught her earring. Wonjun carefully helped her untangle it. Their eyes met, and his heart raced. When he got back to the apartment, he saw Doona sitting alone by the door, wearing only slippers. Wonjun worried she might be cold, but then heard her sobbing. Just as he didn't know what to do, Doona suddenly stood up and angrily warned him not to sing anymore, or she'd smash his head. Before Wonjun could react, Doona fainted. He quickly put his jacket over her and called for an ambulance. Doona woke up in the hospital. Wonjun asked about her family, but she yelled at him. He had to tell the nurse he was her guardian. Doona thought he was pretending to be nice, but he listened carefully to the nurse's advice and even bought socks for her. She asked him to put them on, and to her surprise, he did. She then asked his name, but Wonjun said it was private and refused to tell her. Doona found this strange boy interesting. The next day, a friend called Wonjun, asking if he smoked. The employer had smelled smoke on his scarf and fired him. Upset, Wonjun realized it was from Doona blowing smoke at him. While picking up a package, Doona called his name and asked him to eat breakfast with her. Wonjun noticed she was sitting on his package. She handed it to him and again asked him to eat with her. Wonjun ignored her request. Doona sat in a chair eating snacks and watching him. From that day, she waited for him at the door every day, asking to eat together. But Wonjun always refused. When he hung laundry on the roof, Doona sat nearby. When Wonjun picked up a fan hoodie, he quickly explained it was a birthday gift from a friend. Doona didn't care and teasingly asked if he had a girlfriend. When he said no, she invited him to eat again. Wonjun hesitated for 2 seconds and then boldly asked if she liked him. Doona burst out laughing and said she would never like him. Wonjun felt a bit hurt, but Doona said she wanted to be friends. Before he could reply, she said she wanted to make a wish at sunrise. In the sunlight, she looked even more beautiful, and Wonjun found himself captivated. After losing his tutoring job, Wonjun put up flyers for part-time work. One night, he saw his flyers torn down and got a phone call right after. Excited, thinking it was an employer, he turned around and saw it was Doona's prank. She laughed proudly, but Wonjun got angry. He begged her to stop bothering him. He explained that he came from an ordinary family, had to study and work hard and wasn't like her, living freely without worries. After hearing this, Doona quietly walked away. After that day, she never bothered Wonjun again. But strangely, Wonjun felt a bit lost. Finally, he couldn't help but go to the first floor to apologize and told Doona they could eat together next time. Doona walked past him, ignoring him, and closed the door. Soon after, she came to Wonjun's classroom, sat beside him, and playfully said she wanted to have dinner with him. The boys around them looked on with envy. Feeling shy, Wonjun put his hat on Doona. Seeing him nervous, Doona laughed happily. After class, Wonjun treated her to ice cream. Doona used the chance to say she might call him sometimes, and reminded him not to fall for her. Wonjun confidently said that wouldn't happen. Then he saved her number. Since Wonjun couldn't find a tutoring job, he started working part-time at a cafe. Surprisingly, Jinju also worked there. The two worked and joked together. Wonjun couldn't help but think about their high school days. The day the scholarships were announced was when he first met Jinju. From that day, his eyes never left her. After work, Wonjun played with a kitten at the apartment entrance. When Duna saw him, she asked why he didn't answer her calls. She hated that the most. She had been trying to reach a man, but he never replied. Wonjun explained he wasn't ignoring her. He was busy at work. Duna said she wanted to hear his voice and told him to answer next time, so she wouldn't feel abandoned. Wonjun nodded obediently and noticed Duna was wearing the pink socks he had given her. A few days later, Wonjun went to a department gathering. During the party, Duna called. A senior grabbed Wonjun's phone and talked to Duna rudely. Just then, Duna arrived and scolded the man. The man didn't back off and cursed at her. Angry, Duna picked up a wine bottle to hit him. Luckily, Wonjun blocked it with a helmet, avoiding a disaster. Even with his injured hand, he bought Duna a drink to calm her down. When he learned Duna had brought that wine to share with him, he suggested they have a drink now. On the way, they ran into Jinju. Jinju recognized Duna immediately and invited her to drink. Wonjun could only watch as the two girls laughed and drank. When Jinju got drunk, her father called. Wonjun didn't dare to answer. Duna boldly answered, pretending to be Jinju's classmate and telling her father not to worry. Wonjun was amazed by her acting and thought it was a waste for her to only be an idol. After drinking, Duna went to the rooftop for fresh air. Worried she might fall, Wonjun sat quietly nearby. Duna talked about Jinju, saying she envied people with long-lasting, close friendships. As she stood up, she almost fell. Wonjun caught her in his arms. For a moment, the atmosphere felt intimate. Duna suddenly leaned closer to Wonjun. He nervously closed his eyes, but she didn't kiss him. The next day, Wonjun couldn't stop thinking about what happened. Duna's beautiful face stayed in his mind. Jinju excitedly told Wonjun she saw him kissing Duna. Wonjun tried to explain but saw her running happily to a senior. Seeing her smile, Wonjun felt a little sad. At home, he saw Duna throwing trash without sorting it. He offered to help her with the garbage. Duna noticed he was upset and suggested he explain to Jinju. Wonjun shook his head. He said they were just friends, and explaining would feel strange. Duna joked again about dating him. Wonjun suddenly said he knew why she had no friends. He said she was selfish and spoke without thinking about others' feelings. Duna got angry, grabbed the trash from him and threw it all around. The next day, Wonjun asked his friends why Duna left the girl group. No one knew what happened to her. At night, Duna went to feed the cat and noticed her trash was gone. She realized Wonjun cleaned it and smiled. When she got home, Wonjun invited her to dinner. After eating, they went for a walk. Curious, Wonjun asked why she left the group. Duna looked surprised. He was the first to ask. Others randomly guessed reasons and judged her life. She only said she left because she couldn't sing anymore. On the street, she saw a claw machine and played happily. Watching her, Wonjun smiled without realizing. She won a toy and left satisfied. She told Wonjun it was her birthday. Wonjun told her to eat on time from now on. Duna asked why he didn't date Jinju. Wonjun said he had a one-sided crush. Duna encouraged him, saying he just needed to make Jinju like him too. Then she taught Wonjun step by step and looked into his eyes for 5 seconds. Wonjun took the chance to say, "Happy birthday." Duna felt touched. At home, Duna saw a note on the table and ran out to look for someone. But with cars everywhere, she couldn't find the man. Meanwhile, Wonjun called Jinju and explained he wasn't dating Duna. Jinju felt relieved. The next day, Wonjun asked Duna what Jinju's reply really meant. Duna thought Jinju liked him too and encouraged him to seize the moment. Wonjun took out a photo of him and Jinju from a book. Before graduation, they took funny and close photos together. Classmates rumored they were dating, but Wonjun said they were just close soulmates. Jinju didn't deny it, but Wonjun didn't know she liked him too. That night, Wonjun didn't see Duna at the door and felt worried. He heard banging from the bathroom and realized she was stuck inside. He broke the doorknob with tools. Duna hugged him in fear and he gently comforted her. After she calmed down, he fixed the doorknob. Duna thought he looked sexy while fixing it. Without a father, she often imagined moments like this. She seemed sad, opened her cigarette box, and found it empty. Wonjun reminded her there was another pack in the cabinet. She found it but threw it all away. Those cigarettes belonged to the man she once depended on. Seeing her upset, Wonjun took her to play a whack-a-mole game. She didn't know how to play, so he taught her step by step. Once she got the hang of it, he cheered for her. They then played basketball. Doona jumped on his back when excited, and he let her score on purpose. Afterward, they lay on the court together. The sky was gray, but Doona felt happy. She hadn't laughed like that in a long time. Wonjun told Doona he was going to see cherry blossoms with Jinju. Doona acted like a love teacher, telling him not to run away. On the day, Jinju arrived on time. The cherry blossoms were beautiful, and they reminisced about the past. During their chat, Wonjun mentioned Doona playing whack-a-mole. Jinju noticed his eyes looked different when he talked about Doona. It started raining on the way back. Jinju's senior drove by and gave them a ride. The senior took great care of Jinju. Wonjun stayed silent but felt annoyed. Later, his housemate called him. Coincidentally, the senior was friends with the housemate. That evening, the three attended a party hosted by the housemate. Doona joined too. At the party, the housemate praised the senior in front of Wonjun and tried to match him with Jinju. The senior said he and Jinju were like soulmates. Jinju didn't deny it. Wonjun felt upset and left to buy food. Doona followed him. It was cold, but Doona stubbornly bought ice cream. Wonjun threw away the stick for her and put his jacket over her head. Jinju saw Doona wearing Wonjun's jacket and felt disappointed. Wonjun heard the senior and Jinju were getting closer. He looked distracted and uneasy. The next day, at the basketball game, Jinju kept cheering for her senior. Afterward, Doona warned Wonjun that if this continued, Jinju might end up with another man. Wonjun shook his head helplessly. After high school, he confessed his feelings to Jinju, but since then, she avoided him on purpose. Wonjun believed it was all his own wishful thinking. Now, he was content just to stay friends with her. On April Fool's Day, they gathered again. Jinju said the senior had confessed to her, but she hadn't given an answer. She liked someone else, but felt too nervous to get close when he approached. Wonjun listened carefully, but Jinju laughed and said it was just an April Fool's joke. When it was Doona's turn, she showed a stack of photos, saying a stalker had taken them. This wasn't a joke. She pointed outside. The stalker was there. Wonjun rushed out first, catching the stalker despite the danger. It turned out to be a man from a nearby convenience store. Doona grabbed a bottle to hit him but stopped in the end. Wonjun, angrier than her, warned the man to behave. Jinju saw this side of Wonjun for the first time. She wanted to touch the wound on his face, but he stopped her hand. Jinju suddenly felt he seemed like a stranger. At that moment, her phone buzzed. She hid the screen, as if not wanting Wonjun to see, but it was just a message from her parents. On the way home, Jinju kept looking at her photos with Wonjun. Sweet memories filled her heart, but her face looked sad. Meanwhile, Wonjun stayed with Doona until she fell asleep. Later, he got drunk alone because of Jinju. Doona woke up halfway and asked for more wine. Wonjun hesitated but held her outstretched hand. He had already dealt with the stalker, making him sign a promise not to bother her again. Doona could report it to the police any time. She looked at Wonjun silently, then lay her head on his lap and fell asleep. Wonjun gently covered her with a blanket. Doona grabbed his hand and said he could pull it away if he didn't like it. Instead, he placed his other hand on hers. That night, they fell asleep holding each other. Afterward, Wonjun felt conflicted. He started noticing this strange but interesting girl. Doona, unaware, excitedly visited him at the amusement park where he worked. He couldn't accompany her since he was busy, so she played alone and waited for him to finish. When he saw her, his tiredness vanished, and he took her for jjajangmyeon. Suddenly, Doona talked about her life. One time, when a show got canceled, she realized she couldn't do anything besides singing and dancing. She worried that without those, her life would be lonely and boring. But after meeting Wonjun, she found life fun again. She asked him what he wanted to do in the future. His answer was simple. He just wanted an ordinary life. Doona took the fortune slips from the side. Wonjun picked one. It said he would meet trouble and bad things. He didn't feel upset. For him, just eating jjajangmyeon with Doona was already a luxury. Doona suggested going on a date when the weather was nice. On the bus ride back, Wonjun fell asleep. Doona let him lean on her shoulder. She took out her fortune slip. It said to forget old wounds and welcome new love. Soon, someone took a photo of them eating together and posted it online. The internet was full of bad comments about Doona. Wonjun worried she might feel hurt, but she didn't care. She was used to cruel and senseless hate since her debut. Wonjun thought these people went too far. He even promised to attend her press conference. Doona seriously asked if he could say she was someone he liked. Wonjun paused to think, but Doona said she was joking. He couldn't figure out this strange girl. Wonjun told Jinju about the fortune slips and showed her his. When Jinju read it, her face changed. It said to welcome new love. Doona had secretly switched his slip while he slept on the bus. Jinju was upset, but then she saw news about Doona. Though the face was blurred, she recognized Wonjun at once. The next day, the weather was perfect. Doona dressed up, ready for a date with Wonjun, but Wonjun's housemate suddenly called him for something urgent. When he arrived, he realized it was a setup for a group blind date. Doona waited at home for Wonjun. Even in her pretty clothes, she felt bored and sad. The housemate came home first. He thoughtlessly told Doona that Wonjun was having fun with a girl and might not come back tonight. Doona felt disappointed and waited in the yard all night. Late at night, Wonjun finally returned and saw her. Her finger was burned by a cigarette. He quickly took ice and carefully helped her cool it down. Strangely, Doona only felt the pain now, just like the sadness she felt when smelling women's perfume on him. Before Wonjun could react, Doona leaned in and kissed him. He pushed her away and went back to his room alone. That night, Wonjun couldn't sleep, tossing and turning in bed. The next day, he couldn't focus on studying at all. Feeling anxious, he decided to go home with his backpack. When he entered his room, he saw Doona sitting on his bed. Wonjun asked her why she kissed him the day before. Doona looked confident, saying it was just a kiss and didn't mean much to her. Wonjun realized she didn't like him and they were just friends. Since they were friends, there should be no crossing the line. Wonjun understood Doona was lonely and just wanted comfort. This wasn't love, but the kiss made his heart race. After their talk, Doona decided to find housemates. Ira, someone Wonjun knew, moved into the dorm. Doona also invited Jinju, who had run away from home. At night, the three girls drank together. Jinju and Ira, both students at the same university, had lots to talk about. Doona felt out of place and went outside alone. Jinju followed her and said she liked Wonjun. She hadn't confessed yet but had hinted at her feelings. Doona was straightforward. She said Jinju could use her room but didn't wish them well. Jinju believed she had an advantage. She had known Wonjun for years, and they liked each other, sharing many experiences. Doona just smiled silently. It was true Jinju and Wonjun seemed more connected. Feeling upset, Doona dressed up and went to a bar to lose herself. She wanted more love, but also feared losing it. After partying, she was about to leave when she ran into someone she knew. Meanwhile, there was a party at the apartment. Jinju went to Wonjun's room to get a blanket and found an old photo of them in his book. She felt happy, thinking he still liked her. But then she noticed a cigarette box near the bed, clearly belonging to Doona. Her face darkened. She decided to confess to Wonjun that day. Jinju remembered when Wonjun confessed to her years ago. She had been so happy, but her father was controlling and didn't allow her to date. He even cut his daughter's hair if they disobeyed. Thinking of her strict father, Jinju knew she couldn't be with Wonjun. Recently, she ran away from home to escape her father's control. After hearing this, Wonjun admitted he used to like Jinju, but seeing her again, he realized those feelings were gone. After clearing things up, Wonjun waited in the yard for Doona to return. A man brought Doona home and tried to kiss her, but was stopped. Angry, the man accused her of living recklessly to get Manager Park's attention. But Manager Park didn't seem interested in her anymore. Wonjun heard the noise and came out. Doona remembered her phone was left in the man's car and asked Wonjun to help get it. Wonjun got the phone and asked the man if he was Doona's friend. The man laughed mockingly. He said Doona got close to different men on purpose to catch Manager Park's attention. Since Doona came to him, the man thought he could take advantage. Wonjun held back his anger and slammed the car door. But the man's words disturbed him. He shook off Doona's hand. Doona followed him and asked what was wrong. Wonjun wanted to know how he was different from the other men. Doona also wanted to know if she really liked Wonjun or was just lonely. So she tested herself with other men. But now, she realized she might really like Wonjun. Getting her answer, Wonjun kissed Doona. Falling for her completely, he wanted to know more about her. He searched her name online and found only bad news. Doona's parents abandoned her when she was a child. Now she was paying off her mother's huge debt. Wonjun felt heartbroken. He got drunk and called Doona to confess. He told her he not only liked her but was jealous of the men she once liked. After hanging up, he ran to Doona's side. He climbed into her bed and hugged her tightly. The next day, Doona's mother came to see her. She told Doona to beg her manager to rejoin the girl group and make money for her. Doona looked at her mother, who only criticized her, feeling disappointed. Later, she went to the girl group's new song launch. Watching the members dancing on stage, she smiled with relief. She turned to leave and accidentally saw Manager Park. She quickly lowered her head and walked away. Not far away, she got a text from Manager Park. She didn't reply, feeling conflicted inside. At that moment, Wonjun got a call from Jinju asking him to watch the fireworks together. He arrived at the meeting spot just as the fireworks started. Under the beautiful display, Jinju confessed her feelings again. She had liked Wonjun since their first meeting. Every day, she found excuses to get close to him. Being with him always made her feel calm and happy. But she was afraid that confessing might ruin their friendship, so she kept her feelings hidden. When Doona appeared, Jinju realized she might lose her chance. Even if rejected, she decided she would have no regrets. Wonjun apologized repeatedly, thanking her for everything she had done. Jinju, knowing the outcome, still teared up. Afterward, Wonjun called Doona several times before reaching her. Feeling upset, Doona suggested they take a trip together. Though surprised, Wonjun agreed. They took a bus to the countryside. In the rain, they rode bikes wildly, forgetting all their worries. At night, the cold made them shiver. Doona boldly asked Wonjun to take off her shirt. Wonjun hugged her instinctively, and Doona kissed him. The next morning, Doona hummed happily, looking at the sky. Wonjun woke to her singing and silently hugged her. Doona then asked him to officially date her. Hearing her confirm their relationship, Wonjun felt overjoyed and held her hand. Suddenly, Doona stopped. Looking at Manager Park in the distance, she let go of Wonjun's hand. Ignoring Wonjun's attempts to stop her, she walked to Manager Park and got into his car. Manager Park wanted Doona to make a comeback, saying fans would forget her otherwise. Doona, upset that he abandoned her before, threatened him to stop the car. She got hurt because the car didn't stop properly. Doona admitted she liked Manager Park and had been waiting for his call every day. Manager Park found it funny. She had caused the mess and left it for him to fix. Now she wanted to use him to return to the stage. That wasn't love. Doona broke down, crying on the ground. Later, Manager Park took her to the hospital. During this time, Wonjun called her, but she ignored it. Manager Park told Doona to get in the car, or he'd never see her again. But his words didn't seem to hurt her, because they would never meet again anyway. When Doona returned to her cottage, she found that Wonjun had already left. She wanted to call him, but didn't know how to explain everything. Although she rejected Manager Park, she still dreamed of returning to the stage. In middle school, Manager Park discovered Doona and made her a trainee. She practiced dancing every day, and only Manager Park cared about her health. Over time, Doona fell for this mature man. After a performance accident, she told Manager Park she couldn't sing on stage anymore, but he chose to abandon her. Thinking of the past, Doona met an old teammate at a cafe. The teammate ordered an iced Americano, while Doona, no longer watching her weight, ordered a high-calorie milkshake. The group had returned, but their performance got poor responses. Doona felt bad, wishing her teammates could succeed. They chatted while drinking, but when they left, Doona's drink was untouched. She could have lived freely, but she still longed for her shining moments on stage. After sorting out her thoughts, Doona sat in the yard, waiting for Wonjun to come back. She pretended nothing happened and suggested they go on a trip during his vacation. Wonjun was full of anger. He wanted to know what he meant to Doona. He liked her and wanted to be her support when she felt lonely. But when she abandoned him, he felt heartbroken. He realized he couldn't just act like he didn't care. Wonjun decided to move out. Doona hugged him and wouldn't let him leave. Wonjun smelled smoke on her, but she had quit smoking. He thought Manager Park had abandoned her again, so she came back to him. Doona got a bit angry, but still tried to make him stay. Wonjun asked why she left him back then. Doona didn't know at the time that the person she couldn't lose was him. After their separation, she regretted her actions. She hoped he could understand her. Hearing her honest words, Wonjun's heart softened. He knew Doona was selfish and unstable, but she had started this, and now he loved her deeply and couldn't stop. When she said, "I love you," he felt satisfied and kissed her again. They made up and started their sweet life as a couple again. Doona picked out a pair of rings at a street stall to celebrate their love. Later, Wonjun took her to see a boy group's performance. Doona looked at the idols on stage and felt uneasy. She couldn't sleep all night, thinking about her time on stage, but she hid her true feelings from Wonjun. One day, Wonjun casually asked if she wanted to go back to the stage. He said he wanted to see her sing again. Doona thought he was silly and cute. She joked, asking what he'd do if the company made them break up. Wonjun didn't know how to answer. That day, Doona was bumped into while buying sleeping pills. When she bent down to pick up her things, she saw a girl group dancing on TV and froze. Back home, she saw videos online of fans asking her to return to the stage. She felt torn. The company sued her for breaking the contract, demanding 3 billion won. Doona was in pain over the huge compensation. She believed Manager Park was behind it. Manager Park said he couldn't stop the company's decision. He offered to help her make a comeback, but said she had to break up with Wonjun. Doona didn't know how to tell Wonjun, so she acted like nothing was wrong. Wonjun noticed her recent changes. He found the sleeping pills on the table and quietly threw them away. Then he saw a man's cigarette pack in the trash. He guessed Manager Park had been there and confronted him. Manager Park told him to break up with Doona. If she wanted to return to the stage, she couldn't have any scandals. Staying with Wonjun would only hold her back. Wonjun didn't know how to respond. He clenched his fists silently. He remembered the night they went to the boy group's show when Doona was invited on stage. Wonjun stared at the dazzling Doona, slowly lowering his head. In that moment, he felt so far from Doona. Wonjun ran wildly, shouting and letting out his emotions. He felt like he was about to lose Doona. Doona made a successful comeback with Manager Park's help. He rented a top apartment and took Doona's phone to stop her from contacting Wonjun. In the following days, Doona's career skyrocketed. Countless fans went crazy for her. Wonjun began preparing to become a civil servant. In his busy days, he occasionally thought of Doona. One day, Wonjun came out of the library and accidentally crossed paths with Doona, who was there for a performance. Doona got off the car early and waited for him. They had a meal together. Doona explained that her phone was taken away, so she couldn't contact Wonjun. Wonjun didn't get angry. He calmly told her he was about to serve in the military. He would silently cheer for her and wish her dreams came true. Doona understood his hidden meaning. She explained that once she became strong enough, the company wouldn't control her private life. She asked Wonjun to be patient a little longer, but Wonjun coldly broke up with her. Doona was furious. She blamed Wonjun for not keeping his promise and running away, just like everyone else who left her. Wonjun didn't deny it. Disappointed, Doona turned and left. While waiting for the subway, she still hoped Wonjun would come back to her, but in the end, he never came. Doona cried her heart out. Wonjun felt bad too. He watched Doona leave and cried. In the next 4 years, Doona's world had no more Wonjun. She focused on her career and became Korea's top idol. After Wonjun left the army, he kept studying for the civil service exam. Sometimes he drank alone and felt lonely. Whenever he saw Doona's posters in the subway, his heart ached. One day, Wonjun returned to the apartment for a party. At night, after his friends left, he went back to get his clothes and ran into Doona. They hadn't seen each other for 4 years. Doona asked about his life, but Wonjun answered coldly and carelessly. After they parted, Doona went home and burst into tears. Once close lovers, they were now distant strangers. She felt deep pain and didn't want to give up. She went to Wonjun again and angrily asked if he had nothing to say except to take care. Wonjun still gave no response. Doona's eyes filled with tears. After letting out her anger, she told Wonjun to admit his mistakes first this time. When he apologized and showed regret, they hugged each other and cried. Soon after, Wonjun passed the civil service exam. Doona continued her idol career. One day, Wonjun went to buy a cake with his boss. Meanwhile, Doona came there after an event. Wonjun led his boss in the opposite direction, then sighed in relief. Doona glanced at his back for a moment, then walked away.